Lawmakers in Congress are very close to a final vote on the new infrastructure bill. Lawmakers could also include an extra round of stimulus payments into the bill to cut off debate on the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, paving the way for swift passage of the sweeping legislation that would enact key elements of President Biden's economic agenda, although exact timing of a final vote is still unclear. Chuck Schumer's move to file cloture sets up a key procedural vote on Saturday, which needs 60 votes to end debate on the bill. But many senators are still having discussions about a series of votes late Thursday, including a possible vote on final passage. However, given the timing, that seems increasingly unlikely. If the procedural vote goes forward on Saturday and 60 senators vote to advance the bill, then there would be a limited time for debate, followed by additional votes, and then final passage. At that point, passage could occur as early as Saturday if all senators agree, and if not, the vote would slip until early next week. Chuck Schumer said in floor remarks on Thursday night that Democrats and Republicans have worked all day and are still hashing out an agreement to move to final amendment votes on the bill. But we aren't there yet, he said. He also added, if we come to an agreement yet tonight, which is our preference, we will have additional votes on amendments. I believe we are very close to an agreement and see no reason why we cannot complete this important bipartisan bill. So I urge both sides to continue working diligently to make it happen. The massive bipartisan infrastructure package, called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, represents a major bipartisan achievement that would allow both parties to claim victory. It features $550 billion in new federal spending over the next 5 years.
And put America on a new path to win the race for the economy in the 21st century. Historic investment in roads and rail and transit and bridges, in clean energy and clean water. It will enable us not only to build back, but to build back better than before the economic crisis hit. I want to thank the bipartisan group of senators for working together and the committee chairs for raising their ideas and concerns with me and Vice President Harris and members of our cabinet. As we did with the Transcontinental Railroad and Interstate Highway System, we'll soon once again transform America and propel us into the future. This bill makes key investments to put people to work all across the country, in cities, in towns, in rural communities, small towns, big towns, along the coastlines and on the plains. It covers the nation. This could put America to work in good-paying union jobs, building and repairing our roads, bridges, ports, airports. And, once this bill passes the Senate, I know that body will move toward establishing a framework for the remainder of my Build Back Better agenda and giving tax cuts to the middle class by investing in child care and home care for seniors, critical investments to combat climate change and to build a clean energy future, vital steps needed to bring down the cost of, and so much more. And we're going to do it without raising taxes by even 1 cent on people making less than $400,000 a year. And here's another important part of the bill. 90% of the jobs created by this legislation will not require a college degree. 90%. It's a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America. Which brings me to another piece of good news this morning. We learned that the economy created 943,000 new jobs in July.
The measure invests $110 billion in funding towards roads, bridges, and major projects, $66 billion in passenger and freight rail, $65 billion to expand broadband internet access, $39 billion to modernize and expand transit systems, and $7.5 billion to create the first federal network of charging stations for electric vehicles. The bill additionally includes $55 billion for water infrastructure, $15 billion of which will be directed toward replacing lead pipes. Chuck Schumer's decision to wind down debate is a delicate one as he works to successfully shepherd a major Democratic legislative priority through the Senate. The Senate has been debating and voting on amendments to the legislation throughout this past week. Amendment votes got underway on Monday after the Senate held a rare weekend session as bipartisan negotiators raced to finalize the bill text, which was finally unveiled this past Sunday evening. Right now, Republicans have warned Chuck Schumer not to rush the process and have called him to provide adequate time for members to consider the roughly 2,000-page legislation. which was only released several days ago, as well as allow for a robust amendment process. At a press conference on Tuesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell cautioned that if Chuck Schumer ended debate on the bipartisan infrastructure bill too soon, he would urge his members to block it. Senators voted on over a dozen amendments. A series of bipartisan amendments were adopted by wide margins, including one that aimed to address workforce shortage in the wireless and broadband industries. Chuck Schumer faces a balancing act as he pursues a dual-track strategy, aiming to swiftly pass the bipartisan infrastructure legislation in order to immediately move to adopt the Democrats' budget resolution, which will lay the groundwork for passage of an even more sweeping infrastructure package with a potential price tag of $3.5 trillion that can be passed without GOP support and include Biden's priorities left out of the bipartisan bill. Schumer has also warned he will keep the Senate in session until they pass both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and a budget resolution with reconciliation instructions. The nation's 59 million self-employed workers got a lifeline last year when lawmakers created the first ever program that extended jobless benefits to this growing group of workers. But that program, unemployment assistance, will end on September 6th, once again placing unemployment benefits out of reach for these workers. About 4.2 million Americans are on the program who will lose benefits after September 6th, and this is according to a new analysis from the Century Foundation. The program's end also comes at a time when the economic recovery in some regions appears increasingly fragile given resurgent cases. The program provided aid to gig workers, as varied as actors, house cleaners, drivers, and tech contractors who are considered self-employed and thus are not on a company's payroll, locking them out of traditional employee benefits, including unemployment aid. So everyone, do you think that the unemployment assistance program should not end on September 6th? September